In the long distant past, there lived a tough woman, Mgbafo, in Iboko village. There was peace only as long as she was in charge. Her husband, Ide Nwaro, married 3 more wives in order to have peace and as many children as possible who would help out in his massive farms. Mgbafo had 10 children, 7 boys and 3 girls. The boys were soon mature and had resources to build their own houses and then began to marry one by one. The girls too were getting married off. Everything went on fine as long as no wife raised her voice against Mgbafo or questioned her authority. For each new wife taken by the sons, the wife of the first son, Nderika, would invite her into her room for a quick tutelage on their mother-in-law. Mgbafo was very pleasant and smiley outside. Some women in Iboko village knew that the smiles were just a cover-up for her meanness. Many of them warned their daughters. One of them, Ezina, pulled her daughter of marriageable age aside and said, "Nne, love has choices, oh. Don't carry your heart to give to a man who is controlled by his mother. If what I have been saying to you over the years sounds like parables, now hear. To be precise, don't let love carry you to want to marry any of those Mgbafo's sons. I have finished. If you know to pound, pound inside the mortar. If you don't know, pound the ground. Ekucham." Mgbafo's last son was named Ide after his father. The resemblance was so much that no DNA test was needed for proof of paternity. It is as if his father vomited him out. Loved by his father and Mgbafo's favorite of all the boys, Ide enjoyed some special privileges. Because Mgbafo had chosen wives for 3 of the boys, she took it for granted that she would choose for Ide. Without consulting Ide, she invited a girl home and told Ide that she had found a wife for him. He was completely taken aback and said, "Mama, Oginekwa, I am not ready now. I will let you know when I am ready, Biko." Ide is a hard-working, nice man. Like his brothers, he has also built his own house. He was in the farm from early morning till evening, almost daily. He was coming back with his friend Edu, who asked, "Idena, do you really think about taking a wife? You know, my own woman is just very nice and we have lived in peace since we got married 3 years ago. All her sisters are married, but she has a cousin who lives in another village. I have met her twice and she looks a good girl. You know, some women can just be troublesome, so I trust you to be careful in making your choice. Except you want to marry 4 wives like Ide Nwaro, your father." Edu, I don't know why this marriage of a thing is a constant topic around me these days. My mom, the Ezine Mgbafo herself, has brought 3 different girls for me to marry. This is even after I told her I would make my choice by myself and that I would prefer to find my wife by myself. These days, I try to avoid any deep talks with her because it must end up in, "Idena, that girl I brought the other day will make you a very good wife." She said one of the girls made onubu soup and brought to her. I didn't know how to be blunt to her, but in my mind I said, "Marry her by yourself now. Let her be your own wife or hire her as your housemaid. she is just pushing and pushing. Her wahala is too much, I beg. Edu said, I think she means well. She only wants you to marry, and she thinks she knows you well enough to know whom you should marry. She must have told you that years ago, no man in this Idiko village just went out to find a girl to marry. No, it is the mothers and aunties that generally found wives for their sons and nephews. Sometimes, even the man's sisters would do the finding. But times are changing, slowly though. That time, it was no discussion. You only prayed they would get you a good girl. 3 months later, Ide went to see his friend Edu. They stepped out to the obi of the compound where men usually stayed to welcome their fellow men. While they talked, the wife or wives would fix something for them to chew. It could be roasted chicken or roasted bushmeat. They would dip each piece into peppery palm oil and chew, and then wash it all down with palm wine. They discussed some village matters, from farming to politics to village government and governance. Then they came to the very matter for which Ide came around. Wife. Edu, I have had time to think about this marriage matter. I approached 2 different girls I think I love in this our village, but without even giving my chats with them a thought. Each said she was not interested. Edu, do I look like a bad man or what? Why didn't they even give me a chance? Before Edu could say anything, Ide said, Biko, who is that girl you talked to me about months ago? You said she's your wife's cousin or so. Would you escort me to go and meet her before Ezin name Mama Mgbafo hoists one of her Olubu making girls on me? Edu broke into a loud laughter. Edu, Biko, this is not a laughing matter. Edu said, you make me laugh even more. Anyway, we shall go and look for her. Her name is Nkoli. The best day to go is on Afode, which is in 3 days' time. Today is Nkwo. I hear she is industrious and goes to sell yams in their market on a market day, and then goes to another village on Ore market days to sell cassava. So we should come back from the farm hours earlier to enable us go and come back home before sunset. Ide left happy. So on the Afo day, they set out to go to a neighboring village to see the Nkoli. Edu just introduced them and stood aside to let them talk some and get to know each other. Rome was not built in a day, so in a short while they had to say goodbye because they would walk some 10 kilometers to get back home. No, there were no cars, and bicycles were for rich and established men. No motorbikes. They talked at length on their way home, discussing Nkoleka. They would go back in about 3 more Eke days. Eventually the talks deepened, and since they like each other, Ide would need to meet Nkoleka's parents and relations. Within 6 months, and after completing all the traditional marriage demands, Ide and Nkoleka were married, and she followed her husband home. The journey just started. This is simply because Ide's mother wouldn't let them be, especially because she is not the one that brought Nkoli, and also because Nkoli refused to be intimidated by her. 2 years have passed, and Ide was experiencing zero peace of mind in his home because his mother wouldn't let his wife rest. Mother-in-law. She would visit them, and before she enters the house, she would shout, Nkoli, Uncle, whatever you are called, why is this compound not properly swept? Does it mean that your mother didn't teach you how to sweep? If Nkoli gave her food, she would complain of too much salt. Another day, she would complain of too much pepper. Somehow, Nkoli understood to keep mum most of the time. But one day she looked up at her and asked, "Mama, do you think my food would ever be nice in your mouth?" At this, the mama flared up, started shouting, "The girl we just brought the other day is insulting me. She has always been rude and I just need to teach her a lesson." By the way, how many men are in this house? Why did my son marry a girl that is a man who cannot conceive babies? 2 years now, nothing. Biko, where is he? We need to send this man packing back to his father's house. Man, girl, girl, man. Some neighbors heard her shouting and came across to calm her down. Ide finally came home from the farm. The moment Mgbafo saw him, she started shouting afresh, even crying. "Ide Nwam, Ide oh, your wife has been insulting me. It's like she woke up to be spitting abuses on me. The one you insisted on marrying has come here to turn things upside down. And as a witch and a man that she is, she has refused to give me grandchildren. The level of abuse is too much. I want to die." Ide tried to calm her down, but she refused, pouring more and more abuses on poor Nkoli. Finally, she agreed to be escorted back home by Ide. This is but the beginning of big troubles. Ide couldn't stop his mother from coming to his home to torment his wife. One day, Nkoli went to fetch water from the stream. Mother-in-law was waiting for her. She accused her, saying, "Nkoli, you keep hanging out with other men. That's why you go to the stream and never come back early. You think we don't know? Just going to the stream is what takes you hours. Tofiakwa. Wait till I catch you red-handed. Anyway, when Ide comes back, you will explain with as many lies as you like, as usual." Nkoli put down her clay pot and said, "Mama, if you like hanging out with men, count me out. I am not like that. I helped that woman who fell and broke an arm and her waist. She had dirty clothes to wash, so I helped her do the laundry. My husband, even..." As she got to this point, Mgbafo slapped her, saying, "Mata, stop lying. Your lies will kill you one day." Nkoli had hot tears running down her cheeks. Will she hit this woman? Should she push her out of her house? Nkoli was transfixed at the spot, thinking of what to do while the woman was ranting. Next, Mgbafo reached out to the clay pot of water and spat into it. That was it. Nkoli had had enough. In one fresh swoop, she lifted the pot and poured the water on her mother-in-law. And she was ready to engage Mgbafo in a fight this time. But Mgbafo's screams brought their neighbors running to settle the quarrel. Nkoli was busy congratulating herself in her mind. By the time Ide came back, his mother had gone back to her house since she was fully drenched. She became a bit sick because of the shock at Nkoli's reaction. Oh, she didn't even tell her husband Ide Nwaro. Recall also that Ndirika, the wife of the first son, had schooled Nkoli on how to relate with her mother-in-law to enjoy peace. After this fiasco, she invited Nkoli again to preach her usual sermon. But Nkoli took those words with a pinch of salt this time. Nkoli said to herself, "For a lasting peace here, I might have to put up with some war, some battle." Nobody ever challenged this mother-in-law, and that's why she carries herself like the world revolves around her. I have had enough. I also have a mother. Bullying is unacceptable no matter who it comes from. For some months, it's as if there was some quiet, some kind of peace. But soon, Mgbafo seemed to have come out of the shock she got and launched a fresh set of attacks on Nkoli. This particular day, Nkoli was fixing her hair. A girl that lives in their neighborhood was there to help her. Then Mgbafo walked in majestically. Bo, every time hair, every time powder. Is it hair and rubbing powder that you came here to do? Isn't it time you considered going back to your father's house since we don't like you and we don't want you again? You are a man, woman. Because pack your things and go back to your father's house. Enough is enough. Nkoli and the girl kept working on her hair. She didn't even utter a word. They were about rounding up the hair fixing. Her brain was running fast, thinking of the best response to give to this bullying mother-in-law. Then Mgbafo repeated, Nkoli, you don't belong here. You are a man. I want to get a proper wife for my son, Ide. Nkoli got up and straightened herself and replied, Mama, I am not afraid of you. I came from my father's house. After all, my people's high demands were met. You too, you came from somewhere. I'd like to learn from you how to go back. So go back to your father's house. You don't belong here either. Your husband saw how wicked you are and married 3 more wives to compete with you. When last did you ever enter his bedroom, Mama? They were shouting on top of their voices. Neighbors and even Ide came rushing in. He then held his wife. He said, Nne Ozugo Biko. Nkoli loves and respects Ide a lot. She shut up immediately and was shedding tears as Ide led her into her bedroom. Mgbafo was still boiling. Ide, oh, you have sided your wife, right? You are a wicked son. After all that I sacrificed for you, this is what you are doing to me to pay me back? It will not be well with you. As he tried to talk, mother-in-law slapped Ide. His own mother slapped him. This time around, Ide's brothers and sisters had to hear all that their mother had been doing to Nkoli. None knew exactly what to do to settle the issue. Their mother seemed to defy any solution. For months, Nkoli had some peace as her mother-in-law stopped coming to her house. She conceived and in 9 months gave birth to a baby boy. Mgbafo heard it, and as she tried to wriggle her face, she had a partial stroke. And she was first to have that in that village. They said it was the gods of the land that struck her. They moved her to a house at the backest back to avoid being seen or heard by visitors. She was groaning over and over. One of her daughters lived in a city. She heard and came for her. She took her to a hospital in the city, but she was already very bad. She kept talking and confessing the evils she had done. She couldn't help herself anymore. After 2 years of torture, she confessed that she did something for Nkoli not to conceive, and she was purposely upsetting Nkoli to drive her away from Ide. Then she died. What have you learned from this story? What do you really think about this story? What advice do you have for the likes of tough mother-in-law? What advice do you have for Ide? What advice do you have for Nkoli? Do you have some advice for many mother-in-laws across the globe? What is the moral of this story? Importantly, this story shows basically that we should be careful how we treat others, especially those that come as spouses to our children. They came trusting us. Let's not betray the trust. Please leave your comments below. Remember to click the like button if you enjoyed the story, and also click both the subscribe button and the bell to ensure you get to know when we upload another very interesting story. See you then. Goodbye.